Poppy here. Well, Possum Trot is such a tiny little town. It doesn't have its own train station, but there is a big train station 2 towns up the track. And so that's where a lot of the people go to catch the train to take them to their houses after work. And there was a rude man that was coming to the train station, and he was late to catch the train because he was messing around with being too sociable with people and stuff like that. And then he looked at his watch and thought, oh no, I'm late for my train and I'm gonna miss my favorite program at supper time. I gotta get going. So he grabbed his hat and his coat, and he saw the train just as it was starting to pull out of the station. And he thought, oh, I gotta make that train. So he came into the train station, and as he was coming, he even knocked over a little boy at the train station. Oh my goodness, how rude can we get? Well, I gotta tell you about this little boy. His name was Charlie, and Charlie had crutches, and they were the kind of crutches that just come up to your arms, you know. When he was little, he had a disease that made him crippled, so he had to use these, I think they're made out of aluminum crutches. And so he was at the train station, and this rude man knocked him over. Well, Charlie was selling apples that he had in a basket. You see, he was selling apples because he and his mama lived alone, and Charlie had this wonderful little red wagon and a wonderful friend to play with. And one day Charlie came up to his mama and said, Mama, my friend has a birthday coming up, and I just like him so much. I'd like to buy him a coaster wagon like mine. We have a lot of fun with it, and we can play with mine at my house and his at his house. And she said, well, I think that's a good idea, Charlie. She said, but you don't have enough money, do you? And he said, no, I don't, but I was wondering if you could give me some money to help, or I could make money. And she said, I'll tell you what. You know that big old apple tree we got in the backyard? Well, it's just ready for picking. It's full of apples. They're starting to fall on the ground. And she said, I'll tell you what, I'll help you. I'll go out there and you come with me with a big basket, and we'll pick some apples and you put them in your basket. And you can take those apples to the train station and see if anybody wants to buy some. Because it's getting toward supper when the train leaves, and you'll be able to get some money to finish off if you want to buy that wagon. Charlie thought that was a great idea. So his mama drove him over to the big train station. Well, at the same time, when Charlie got dropped off, and he's standing in the train station he's got a hook on his crutches, and he had a basket of apples hanging on a hook and selling apples to people in case they got hungry on the way home. This rude man came through, ran right into Charlie and knocked him over, knocked his apples all over the floor of the train station, and the rude man just didn't do anything about it. He just ran, and as the train was pulling out, he got on the train step, and he got up into the door and into the train car. Well, as he got into the train car, he was looking for a place to sit, and the people on the train had been looking out the window of the train car, and they saw what this rude man did to Charlie, and that didn't make them happy at all. Some people knew him, and he was very rude. And so he said, excuse me, ma'am, may I sit here next to you? She says, no, I've got my knitting basket there, and if it's on my lap, I won't be able to knit. Find yourself another seat. So he went up and he tried another seat, and he tried a man this time. And the man saw him coming, and he quick put his briefcase in that seat with a lot of papers. And the rude man said, sir, can I sit here? And he says, no, I'm sorry. I'm doing my office work here on the train, and I can't take it off of the seat. And then he saw up farther in the train car, he saw, oh, it looked like an empty seat with just a lady next to the window. So he went up there, and here she had a little puppy sitting in that seat. And it had a bowl of water in front of it on the seat. And he said, do you mind, maybe you could move your puppy and I could sit in this seat? And she says, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't move this puppy. She said, I can't hold the water dish and him too, and he's awful thirsty. He said, go find another seat. Well, they were not liking Charlie at all. I mean, not Charlie, but they weren't liking the rude man at all, because they saw out the train window what he did to Charlie. And so he had to hold on to the train seats all the way home back to his house. Well, in the meantime, as Charlie was kind of crying a little bit in the train station yet, his apples were all over the floor. That man had been so rude and knocked them all over and didn't even stop. Well, there was a nice army guy that had sitting in one of the chairs in the train station, and he saw what happened to Charlie. And so he went over and he was helping him. He said, here, let me help you pick up these apples. And he picked up all the apples for Charlie and put them back on his crutches, on that little hook on his crutches. And he said, there you go. And Charlie said, boy, you're just like Jesus. Thank you. And the army guy said, well, I try to be like Jesus as much as possible. And the little boy said, me and my mom, we love Jesus too, and we try to help other people too. And the army guy said, that's great. Always stay close to Jesus. And you know, Charlie was able to sell apples like crazy that day. After that train left, there was another train that was going to go. And he sold all of his apples, and he got enough money to help buy that wagon for his friend. And so you see, following Jesus means an awful lot. It's always the right way. But the guy on the train had to stand up all the way home because nobody liked his attitude. And so we got to stay close to Jesus. In fact, Jesus said, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And there's even a verse in the scripture, the Apostle Paul says, whatsoever you do, do it with your whole heart as if you were doing it for Jesus. So that's the end of my story today. It doesn't pay to be rude and thoughtless to other people. Think like Jesus thinks. Okay. See you later. Bye-bye.